I care deeply for freedom, and I was trying to find that who is really free. And of course, there are many different ways to look at freedom and someone who is free, someone who is not. I chose to look at this one particular aspect. I realized that someone who is under the influence of fear is not free. Anyone who is living under the influence of fear is not free. Why do I say this? I say this because someone who is under the influence of fear is not entirely free to make his or her or their own decision. Their thoughts, their actions, and their decisions are influenced and inspired by fear. Let me give you a little example from my own life. Some 10 years ago, I was in Ohio. This is in the United States. Ohio is a landlocked state, which means that hardly any portion or no portion of the state is covered by water. I was inside a recreation center, and that day I had decided that I am going to jump into the swimming pool. So I walked to the swimming pool and I first looked for the lifeguard. I found him and I said, "Hey, I'm going to jump today, so you better keep an eye just in case I drown." He said, yeah, no problem. I have 40 minutes on my shift. You can, okay. So I go and I choose the lowest, that springboard, and I go and stand on it. Now I know that I am nowhere close to the ocean, nowhere close to any water body. This is a swimming pool. I go to the edge of the springboard and get ready to jump. But I cannot jump. There are all these different thoughts in my head. I could not jump. 40 minutes went by and I did not realize. This lifeguard comes and taps me and says, "Are you going to jump or not?" I said, "No, let's go back." Why did I not jump? I did not jump because I have a fear of water. As soon as I put my head under the water, I feel like some shark is going to come and bite me or even kill me. This is the fear that I live under the influence of. So in middle of a landlocked state, in a recreation center, in a swimming pool, I was afraid of sharks. All my knowledge, all my wisdom defeated me. 40 minutes I stood there, imagining all these different scenarios. If I jump, suddenly a shark will come, it will bite my leg off or it will take my arm away. I lived for those 40 minutes under the influence of fear. I was living in the illusion of freedom. Actually let me go and say all of us live under the influence of one or other kind of fear. Some people are afraid of heights, some people are afraid of water, some people are afraid of electricity, some people are afraid of spiders and lizards and cockroaches, some people are afraid of exams, some people are afraid of maths and science, some people are afraid of their teachers, some people are afraid of their parents, some people are afraid of failure, and there are some people who are also afraid of success. There are so many different types of fears. Fear of what other people are going to think about you will dictate how you behave, what you do, what you don't do. Fear of missing out. FOMO. I'm sure you all have heard of FOMO. What is that? Constantly living in the fear of missing out a gathering or from a party or from some religious function, constantly you are living in the fear, one or the other. Fear of losing your loved ones. Many mothers, they fear that something bad will happen to their children, so they don't let go of them. There are business leaders who fear that some bigger company will come and take over. There are some rich people who fear that someone will come and take their wealth away. There are many other politicians, they fear of losing their seat, right? So all these fear, it constantly motivates, influences, and at times dictates them to do things that they would otherwise not do. Fear makes us behave in ways that we would otherwise not behave. Fear of the unknown, fear of the dark, fear of uncertainty. All these fears, they lead to sometimes violent consequences. There are so many different wars going on the planet at this point in 2024. According to one report, there is more instability now in 2024 than there was during the Second World War. So much displacement, so much fear, anxiety, fear of losing territory, that someone will come and take my territory. Fear of being insulted. All these things, they result in different consequences, and these consequences are often miserable. We have armed ourselves and protective preparation has gone to such extremes because we are afraid that someone will come and take what we have developed, what we have evolved into, what we have conserved. Fear takes holds, it grips you and it grips your life. I am right now sitting in a college. A little lighter side is that there are so many beautiful relationships that you see blossoming and dying in college campuses. Fear of proposing to someone, fear of confessing that you adore someone, that you are fond of someone, fear of rejection, fear of not being able to raise your hand even when you know the answer in a classroom. Think about the scope and the spectrum of fear and how it takes over your life. Hence, I say that one must develop the ability to defeat fear. We have that. We have that ability to defeat fear, and we have to exercise it. In my research that I did for my book called Vate Yakshaha, Defeating Fear, one of the things that I realized is that the one time when there is no fear, all the fear in you evaporates, is when you are laughing out loud. That LOL and ROFL. So when someone is laughing out loud, there is no iota of fear in them. Can you laugh? How often do you laugh? How much can you laugh like that? Do you have the ability in you to create certain situations where that laughter becomes normal and natural? I'm not talking about the laughter clubs. That is also one way to simulate and emulate it. But can we make it a natural and a normal part of our life? How often do you laugh? You have to ask that question. Keep a note of it. And I have found that on an average, this is my personal research and I was very saddened that on an average, people don't laugh more than 5 to 8 minutes on an average. For many, this is per week. They don't laugh more than 5 to 8 minutes. And for some really sad few, in a month, they don't laugh more than 5 to 8 minutes. It's a wretched existence. And I sincerely hope that you work with yourself to ensure that you change the situation. Let me tell you another thing that might help you with defeating the fear by understanding it better. You should have to always ask your question that is fear a host or a guest? If fear, a certain type of fear, is your host, then you are in problem. But if that fear is a guest, a host has more power over the guest. The host can say, all right, time up, you gotta go. But a guest cannot tell the host that, okay, it's your time to go. So you have to understand, make a list of all the different fears and categorize them, whether they are guests or they are hosts. If they are guests, then kick them out. No mercy. With extreme prejudice, kick those guests out. But if they are hosts, then you have to work on them. You have to work very politely and dedicatedly to ensure that you first transform those hosts into guests. And once they become guests, then you can kick them out. So fear is a very tricky thing. I say tricky because oftentimes it does not exist in reality. It only exists in a person's subjective reality. In a home setting, and I'm not stereotyping, but typically, I can just speak of my home. My mother is extremely afraid of a lizard. My father is not. It's not a different lizard, but its impact, its subjective imposition, its subjective experience is very different. Hence, I say that fear is a subjective reality, which does not mean that it is not a reality. It is reality for the person who is experiencing it. Recently, when I did a workshop on fear, I came across a person who was extremely afraid of cotton. How can you be afraid of cotton? It is the most harmless thing. Well, we don't know what happened to that person and why is there such a deep trauma with that. The moment that person sees cotton, their fear gets and their anxiety gets triggered. Another interesting thing about fear is that other people's fears are always funny and impractical and irrational. If someone else is afraid of something else, then it's impractical, irrational, and even funny. But when you are afraid of something, it's not funny anymore. So other people's fears are funny, your fears are not. That's another interesting thing. Fear also has different names. Like another word for fear that is used, panic. I'm sure you all have heard of something called panic attack. When a panic attack sets in, the connection of the mind to the body is severed. You know that you have hands and you can move them, but in the time of a panic attack, no matter how much you try, hands don't move, legs don't move. You feel this weird kind of temporary paralysis. In severe cases, people have experienced difficulty even in breathing. Breathing is an involuntary function. You have some control over it, but beyond a certain time limit, you don't have control over it. You have to breathe to stay alive. People have difficulty in breathing. This is the effect of fear on people. Many people run away from exams. Many people run away from interviews. Many people don't drive cars and two-wheelers because they are afraid. So, the kingdom of fear is a fierce kingdom. And we have to fight. We have to fight against it. Some people find their solution in scriptures. Bhagavad Gita, for example, provides lots of insights on how to understand fear, what are the origins of fear, and how to defeat it. There are other different scriptures. So some people take solace in scriptures. There are other people who use different strategies, different ways of thinking and perceiving. Some they just go through it. If they are afraid of water, they'll just push themselves into the water to experience it and emerge differently. So there are different strategies and different tactics. Today, my goal is to sensitize you to the fact that how much of your life is influenced by fear. You have to identify that and then work towards diminishing the reign of fear on your life. Because a free life is a liberated life. It is an emancipated life. When we talk of liberation and emancipation, there is no fear. And there is no fear because there is no other. You usually fear something else, or you fear yourself, a part of you. There is no other. If the right hand does not fear the left hand, you don't fear your own self. So this understanding also helps. There are other way is for absolute surrender and rely on the divine. Trust, unwavering trust on the divine, that no matter what, the divine will come to help me. So there are different realizations, there are cognitive techniques, there are psychological techniques, there are spiritual ways. I'm not here to tell you to adopt this or adopt that. Of course, for in the long term aspect of it, the scripture based, the spiritual aspects help much more. But then what is most important, regardless of the way you do it, what is most important is for you to actually defeat your fear. I'm not saying that you are going to become fearless. It is possible but highly unlikely. But what is critical is to defeat fear in the moment it starts influencing your thoughts, actions and decisions. The moment you realize that fear is taking over, that the dark clouds of fear are approaching and blocking the way you think, your vision, your clarity, you've got to start, working on defeating that to ensure that you are taking decision based on your will, desire, goal and not inspired by fear. Let your thoughts, actions and decisions be inspired by creativity, but definitely not by fear. So with that, I sincerely hope that you do a little exercise and map out that what aspects and how many aspects of your life are dictated and influenced by fear, and what are you going to do to defeat fear and reduce and eliminate these aspects, because a life without fear is the true and real life. It is the emancipated life. It is the liberated life. This is Dr. Arpan Yagnik signing off. Thank you so much and good luck defeating your fear, because it can be done and you will do it.